everyone. Welcome back to Anti-Media Radio. And as usual, I'm having some technical difficulties, but hopefully I will figure this out momentarily. It's not letting me call my co-host and add them to the call. I don't know why that would be the case. But we're going to figure that out momentarily. The big thing we're going to be talking about tonight is net neutrality. And why is this saying you can only be connected to one call at a time? It's never been the case. I don't understand this. Now the call ended.
I actually think we're on now, but let me do it. It looks like it is.
Okay, we're having I don't know if we're on. Okay, I think we're live. Man, is this like a precursor to net neutrality now? Why is Skype doing... Okay, man, I am so confused. I am so sick of technology, man.
We're on.
All right, we're on. All right. Well, once again, right as I'm about to go on, live, all of a sudden, it says you can only connect to one call at once. It's like, what? That's never been the case before. Why all of a sudden would it be saying that? It's ludicrous. I do the same thing every damn show. I call the station and then I call you. All of a sudden this time I call you and it says you can only connect to one call at once. What does that mean? Why would Skype do that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. We'll talk about net neutrality and you're right. Here, we'll go into the short and long term effects of it because short term bad, long term.
No, but this is a total. This is a total premonition of what net neutrality. It's unbelievable that this happened. This is a total premonition of what net neutrality is going to be like, because all of a sudden you're not going to be able to do a bunch of things that you wanted to do. Okay, so let's get into this. So for people who don't know, today the FCC, along partisan lines by a 3-2 vote, defeated net neutrality. Now, what was net neutrality? Net neutrality was a basic principle, which is that the internet should be free and open to everyone. And by free, obviously, you pay your basic broadband provider fee, and then you get on, and then after that, it's an open market to everyone. But what net neutrality is going to do, basically, is broadband providers like Comcast and Verizon and whatnot will be able to divide their networks into fast lanes and slow lanes. They're going to be able to throttle, video streaming services of their rivals. They'll be able to block content, and they'll be able to charge websites, And it's just a nightmare. And look, I was distracted at the start of the show, so let me remind everyone, this is the Anti-Media Radio. I'm Jake, and DB is joining us.
It's the 14th of December in the year of our Lord 2017. Somehow we've survived this long.
Yeah, so a crude opening there. I was taken off guard by Skype's sudden changes, which is just shockingly annoying. But, there's a lot of crazy shit going on. And like we were talking about, at the very top of the list, of course, is, a much maligned vote. Pretty much no one agrees with this net neutrality vote except for the broadband providers. I mean, you talk about a bipartisan issue. Republicans and Democrats pretty much agree on this. It's really only people that are being paid off by broadband providers that are for striking down net neutrality. All of these. Go ahead.
You saw that thing I sent you, though, right, where it was breaking down like what it actually does and the pros and cons, because it's not all bad. Like, they made it out to be this huge problem, and I think the first thing we should broach before we kind of get going on this is that if the mainstream media is telling you something's bad, it's probably good. No, and in this case,
it's not good, dude. Like, you don't have to be contrarian. You don't have to be contrarian just because the mainstream media is saying it. I
know that, but did you see the thing I sent you, though?
I know. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
All right. So it's breaking down what it is. So basically what net neutrality is, it's a nice way of saying that the FCC was going to take over the internet, all right? And the FTC, the Federal Trade Committee, does that now. And what I've sent you and what I'll read verbatim off that is that by shifting over to the FCC, the internet would be considered a common carrier, meaning the government would actually control and dictate how ISPs would function. And now what it'll be is an actual free and open market. So I know you're going to argue with me on this, but net neutrality is actually the absolute opposite of it because it kills any competition. Now, I know you're going to argue that it's going to allow companies like Skype, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of those companies have changes in their privacy policies coming up within like 3 or 4 days. All of them are going to be massively intrusive, even more so. And the reason why is because of this bill. However, we don't need to use these services. Competitors need to come up that will rely on, I don't know, a pay-as-you-go plan. But I mean, I'm not going to pay for Facebook. If Facebook goes to a pay system, I won't be on it anymore. I refuse to pay any of these companies that are already data mining. It's bullshit, and I hope it brings new competition out.
All right. Well, as much as I think there is incentive in a free market, I think that is certainly an argument that can be made. In this particular case, I just completely and totally disagree with the arguments against net neutrality, and we'll go one by one through these arguments. These and bear in mind, the supporters of striking down net neutrality, in collusion with the broadband providers, have of course been littering the internet with propaganda to try and anticipate the uproar against it.
But this is just more Russian bot propaganda, dude. I mean, come on.
What?
Well, they're saying that bots are going into chat rooms and putting positive, like they're for net neutrality being appealed, and people are going, that's bots.
No, these are basic bullet point lists that have been put out by the FCC, and we're going to go through them here. Okay. So there's the idea that net neutrality regulates the internet in a bad way. Okay? So the fact is that innovation on the internet has been taking place under pre-2005 net neutrality protection?
2015.
Pre-2005.
2015 is when this was signed in, though. This was Obama's bill.
2015 was the Obama era regulations, but there were in 2005 there were other net neutrality protections that were put into place. Okay,
those were fine though.
Okay, under last year's Supreme Court Brand X decision, telephone and cable-based internet providers were required to make internet service available on non-discriminatory terms and conditions to all comers. Net neutrality simply restores long-standing prior law. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking at something the ACLU put out. So while I'm looking for the facts that I'm looking for, what exactly do you think, why do you think it's a good thing to have broadband providers able to make,
Why do you not want Google? Why would you not want Google to have T1 lines put in? What's so bad about fiber optics? Why do we have to continue to allow?
They can do fiber.
But how do they get in? How do they compete?
I cannot believe you're arguing against net neutrality, man.
Because net neutrality is just a hot button term. It doesn't mean what it says it means. What net neutrality does.
It means that the broadband companies are going to be able to make certain websites, if they disagree with the content you're putting up, make you pay for it. They can make. So what?
So get a different one. The problem right now is that I can't get anything but Comcast. It's maddening. There's no competition. There's no desire for any competition. And then 2 streets over, I have U.S. Internet.
Isn't hurting that.
What's that?
Net neutrality isn't hurting that.
What net neutrality? What does it do then?
It safeguards. It safeguards
the Autobahn of the internet. That's what it does. So it allows it's unfettered. Is that essentially what it means? Is that it's unfettered, right? So anybody can do anything. There's not going to be like a Comcast can't block any sites. They can't give preferential treatment or anything like that, right? All right, so that's cool in theory. But then what will happen is they're just going to have there's no reason for them to ever get any better. That's where I'm coming from. So they're going to keep the internet open or whatever they want to say it is. Meanwhile,
who to get better? The broadband providers?
Yeah, I'm saying there's literally no competition while they have monopolies right now.
You want to limit the entire internet so that the broadband providers can throw down the investment they should already.
How would the internet be limited if people could run it as fast as they wanted? Which right now they don't. Because there's no.
It'll be a tiered system where only the very rich content providers will have the money that was needed to allow people to access their content.
So there's no possible way of having startups then right now. Essentially what net neutrality is doing is waving the white flag on monopolies. It's just saying it's too expensive to build competing infrastructures. So let's let Comcast, Time Warner, all these other basically douchebags be able to do whatever they want and never get better because there's no competition ever.
Okay, so you're essentially you're restating.
Okay, so do you know why though? Because then the FCC takes over. So if net neutrality went through, the FCC would have taken over the internet. They would have created it as a utility, a common carrier system. So everybody that was already in place would basically, they already control it. They own all of the infrastructure. So how could anyone new ever get in through the FCC if they controlled the internet? The FCC is the same, dude. The FCC is the same company that censors movies and TV shows. That's what they do, and they're the ones that put parental advisory on the CDs that you used to buy.
censorship before, man. This isn't about censorship. This is about there being a tiered structure to the internet and it not being an open place anymore. You're
arguing in circles because what I'm trying to tell you is the internet sucks crap in the U.S. It's like 1/100th the speed of Korea.
Yeah, it's going to suck corporate crap after this.
I know it will for a minute until there's competitors that are better and don't spy on you and they're cheap.
Like who?
Well, like I said, I have 2 streets down from me. There's U.S. internet, and they're like Google. They're T1 lines. They cost half the price of Comcast, and they're 10 times as fast. And I'm like, dude, get over here. You're just 2 streets over.
Why don't they do it now?
Because Comcast has basically puts a stranglehold on everything because they own all the infrastructure now.
And you don't think it'll be 100 times worse when they can do what they want?
They couldn't expand if the FCC took over because the FCC was just going to lock everything down because that's what they do. They're a federal commission. It would be like, imagine this. If you're a competitor, if you want to make a better internet, you'd have to go through the FCC, which means you'd have to go through this lengthy process. By the time you get your company off the ground, Comcast would already be ahead of you. So you're done. Like whatever chance you had of competing is over. I know it sucks right now because we depend on these companies like Twitter and Skype and everything, but these companies suck, dude. We need to get better alternatives.
Okay, as with many things, I'm not arguing that the system is perfect as is, but allowing complete reign of control to be handed over to powerful corporations is not going to help the situation.
It's the Federal Trade Commission, though.
Okay, the SEC admits internet service providers are going to be able to block websites if they want to. Okay, they're going to be able to create fast lanes and slow lanes. Okay, this bullshit propaganda put out there that restoring internet freedom is going to lead to better, faster, cheaper broadband and allow new broadband startups to get going. There just isn't any evidence to bear that out.
Well, then I don't know what to tell you, man, because it's right by me. It's like right here. So it can be done.
Your one example doesn't cover the entire expanse of the internet, man.
Of course not. And I understand that. What I'm trying to tell you is that the infrastructure that is already built was going to be locked down if the FCC took control. That's all I'm trying to say, and that's what net neutrality was about. And now it shifts back to the Federal Trade Commission. It's simply just a matter of who's controlling the internet. People want either government or big business. So I don't know.
But DB, this isn't about overturning the Obama regulations, which did hand over, internet regulations to the government. This is about literally overturning the everything that's been in place since the internet was created.
They reversed the 2015 actions, so it's not everything.
No. They overturned net neutrality. Period.
The action reversed the agency's 2015 decision. That's what it did. So we still have the original stuff. That's not to say that it's not going to get amended, but I'm just telling you they strip what they're doing is stripping back all these executive action things.
All right. Well, I was under the impression that this killed net neutrality.
No. But I'm just saying, I agree with you on one hand. It's gonna suck for like a few years until Gab and Minds pull in everybody else because people realize how shitty Facebook and Twitter is. That's all it's gonna be. I'm telling you, it's like Bitcoin, dude. People are scared to death right now. I'm gonna lose my money, but you're not, because you're just buying the future currency, and you just have to be patient. This is where it's going. I know it's scary. I get it. But we have to have competitors, dude. These monopolies suck.
Well, dude, but this is going to help the monopolies.
Only initially. But I promise you competitors are going to come up.
That's a bold risk you're taking, man.
Well, okay, my bold risk is this. Are we going to stay brainwashed forever? Were we going to stay brainwashed forever? Are you unhappy that censorship will now be out in the open and people will realize
This is not
what
where to start with the re-education of the public, man.
well,
This is the worst place to start with it because the internet is the only place where people are being educated right now.
well, they're being educated with tons of fake news too. I mean, and I'm susceptible to it as well. It's just, dude,
Yeah, it's a free market of bullshit.
it is.
But let's not let people have a tiered system to where you have to pay to get the bullshit.
Well, listen, if we could make it free somehow for everybody to just have the T1 lines like they do in South Korea, that would be awesome. But I don't know what it would take to convince people the internet's like a necessary utility for society. I don't know.
But that's what the 2015 regulation stated, was that it's internet is a utility.
But it didn't regulate the monopolies of the companies that were providing said utility, just like when you have no choice for power. It sucks, dude. I'm just sick of it, and I know you are too. I don't know how to break the cycle, but I know giving these dudes basically monopoly protection by pushing them off to this committee, that'll just block everybody. Every time somebody would go, I want to put in a fiber optic cable line, they'd be like, we're going to have to do a feasibility study, blah, 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 because FCC, that's what they are. But the Federal Trade Commission will just say, show us your balance sheet. That's it. I mean, you just got to research the different commissions. FCC sucks, dude. FCC is the biggest censorship arm in the world.
Sucks, dude. But this is not about whether the FCC.
But we can't leave them in control, dude.
Same way the government sucks, but that doesn't mean I don't want the government I don't want all regulations against corporations dropped. That's
me neither.
Yeah,
but I don't know where to go. Can't we just boycott these jerk offs? I mean, we got it.
Do that, it would already been in place. But
there was never an impetus. There was never that need because we got by. But now we're realizing these people are trying to get every dollar out of us. Period.
I mean, from that point of view, maybe this would be a good thing. In the same way that the election of Trump, I think, was a major impetus behind the Me Too movement. Maybe
and it's waking people up.
Maybe we need something like this to wake people up. However, and ultimately, the Congress can supersede the FCC. So if enough people speak up, which they will, Congress can pass something, protecting the internet. Yeah, I mean, it's a complex issue, man. But I mean, there's the monopoly is going to be helped by this, and like you said initially, I know, but initially matters right now. 10 years right now matters big time in our current landscape. Technology is advancing exponentially. 10 years is like what 50 years used to be.
I agree. Listen, I'm scared too that they're closing this window on us, but there's got to be a workaround, end around, because we were needing it anyway. We were never going to get anywhere using their systems. As soon as things got bad and we organized, they were going to shut it down anyway. So we know eventually the economy is going to collapse. They're going to tell us that our dollars are worth nothing. Hence why Bitcoin and cryptos are exploding, people. If you couldn't figure that out already, yeah. And the people left holding the bag, the poorest people in this country, will have next to nothing, if not nothing, to lose. And that's the societal breakdown that they're kind of parading us towards, dude. And I agree, man. It's a scary time because there's this show on Sci-Fi that was all about what would a corporatocracy look like, 50, 60 years from now when they control everything. It's as scary as big government. So I think we need to get around. We need to work around. There's somebody out there listening right now that can probably make something better than Facebook. They're just too lazy. And we've got to get that together because these guys they're literally the devil incarnate. I mean, these companies are satanic, dude.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And, trust me, for as much as people hate the government, and I know the government's bad and governments have always been bad, trust me, you do not want a full-blown corporatocracy.
No, it'd be as bad as any police state. I mean, it would, and not only that, but there would literally probably be some kind of starvation in this country if that happened, because the poorest people would. I mean, you're seeing what's going on right now in San Francisco. They're putting freaking robots out there to harass people that are sleeping.
I wrote that article, man.
I know you did. It's a great one, and it's just it's stupid. And I knew they were going to use those stupid Knight Rider, whatever crap robots they are for that stupid shit, because they're never going to catch criminals. So they're just going to be harassers on wheels. Anyway, I think we're going to have LDs coming in here in 3 minutes.
Great. Yeah, good. Yeah.
She may have some stuff to add to.
Interesting talk, man. I was not expecting you to come out on that side of it, but I know that
I'm always in the middle.
You have a unique perspective on it, which you always do, and so that's we got to look at all sides of it.
Because of where I live now, dude, it's changed me from being almost all blue to being purple.
So before LDs comes on, real quick, we'll just go over this thing I wrote, which is basically a San Francisco-based clinic, an animal advocacy and pet adoption clinic. Basically hired an autonomous security robot created by Nightscope, which is a Silicon Valley robotics company, to basically clear all the homeless encampments off of the street in front of them. And unsurprisingly, there's been a huge reaction from city residents. But the bigger overarching issue with this is that San Francisco is a transformed city right now. It's a city that Hello? LDs, are you with us?
I hope so.
Great. How are you doing?
Can't complain. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. We were just talking about net neutrality and that whole issue. But so tell me, the three of us, what are we going to talk about here?
Well, I think Elle's probably got something she's got on her mind. She was supposed to have a guest, and I'm not sure what happened, but we'll ask her, see what's going on, Elle.
So, first of all, I guess I want to say Merry Christmas. And whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate, I mean it. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you, and I hope so, and that's my goal. And what I've been researching is, it's not just Catholic adjacent, it's Vatican Central, and it's, I mean, I'll never give the Vatican $1 again. However...
Oh, you were giving them money before this?
Well, you don't know this about me, Jake, but I might have gone to church a couple days a week at one point when I was a whippersnapper.
That's a bold statement. I didn't know that about you. Yeah.
Why would you? We don't talk anymore, Jake.
No, things have changed.
Right, you're in Portland now.
Yeah, I'm in the heart of Antifa. I can't speak with DB, who lives in Minnesota now. I mean, we just don't have anything to talk about anymore. But anyway, yeah.
How's your testosterone levels?
Well, I eat a lot of soy.
That's a mistake. That's a mistake. I'm not a doctor, but I know from the internet that's a big mistake.
Yeah, the internet has very strong opinions. According to some sites, I am a cook now. A cook. C-U-C-K.
That means you make delicious pastries, or?
No, I don't. What does cook mean? In the InfoWars parlance, it means kind of a.
Isn't Alex Jones a cuck because he's still legally married, and I think his wife's having sex with other people.
All right, so I think that was the original meaning of cook, which is a cuckold, which is someone who doesn't have quote unquote control over their wife or something to that extent. But in recent years, it's been reappropriated to basically refer to liberals and snowflakes and people who don't have control over the situation or don't understand or are willing to, grant control to the government over civil rights issues and stuff like that. So anyway, but yeah, so I'm assuming, I'm assuming we're gonna get into a pretty intense discussion over something. Let me just finish very briefly what I was talking about before we get into what we're going to talk about with El Deeds, which is San Francisco. And I don't know if either of you have ever lived in San Francisco. I lived in San Francisco for a year, and it's a city that's become basically a tech haven now. And what's happened is the price of rent and housing prices has gone so up that many people have been forced out of their homes. The homeless population has skyrocketed there, and so there's simply a lot of people there that cannot afford to live. And it's kind of similar to what it's like here in Portland, where I'm at, which is there's been a huge influx of population and actually a huge influx of tech and venture capital here. Not nearly to the extent of San Francisco. But what happens when that happens is that rent goes up, people are forced out on the streets, and it creates this new kind of gentrified population. And in San Francisco, of course, it's had detrimental effects. And of course, so this one, this one company decided they were going to unleash a robot to clear off the homeless encampments in front of their business, and of course, a lot of people complain, and so it's a effed up situation, and I concluded the article by saying I think it was probably a good metaphor. This shiny robot, is pushing people out of their homes, and forcing the city to lose its humanity. So
are they shocking them yet, or spraying them with pepper spray or anything? Because that's when it's
I don't think we're at that point yet, but I think we will be at that point at some. I mean, look, they already a lot of cities have started putting those little spikes under the bridges to stop homeless people. It's the kind of thing they do on buildings, where they put those tall, spiky things to stop birds from landing. Okay, so now they're taking these spikes and they're putting them underneath bridge overpasses so that homeless people can't camp there. I don't understand what's wrong with the human race. You have people literally starving to death, and you don't give them food. You have people, freezing to death outside without homes. Meanwhile, we have homes being foreclosed upon that are running.
Jake, I got to tell you a staggering statistic with that, which is something that I just researched myself as part of my own business, which is there is literally more empty bank-owned homes in this country than homeless people. I kid you not.
Yep. No, that's the point I was going to get to, which is this is incarnate the problem with capitalism, is that you have this accumulation of homeless people and an accumulation of vacant homes, and the homeless people can't move into the homes because of the economic system that we're in. I don't know what the answer to it is, but I'll sure as shit tell you what the answer isn't, and that's letting people freeze to death and starve to death. That's not the answer. So I don't know if that's a segue into what we're going to talk about for the rest of the show, but I think basic human integrity and human decency, I think, is something that we're going to have to pull back into the equation here for anyone to regain their soul. If we want to talk about religion, I've never been a religious person, but I do consider myself a spiritual person. But I'll tell you what, we have lost any sense of spirituality or religiosity in this country at the point at which we're letting people starve to death, freeze to death, abuse people. I mean, it's a bad situation right now. And I'll hand it over now to El Deeds and let you get back into what you were about to go into.
You said so many things that I wanted to respond to in sequence. You're a wonderfully stimulating host, Jake. You just give a lot of content. I want to thank you for that. As a listener, and of course, tonight as a participant.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Unfortunately, I don't remember. I should have actually jotted down a few things because you gave me a couple of good questions. But if we're going to talk about, again, it's hard for me to utter these words. It's systemic child abuse. It's systemic child sexual abuse. It's the orgs we trust to protect them who seem to be, in the main, in the exact opposite of the business. What they are, in fact, are pimps. What they are, in fact, are rapists. What they are, in fact, are monsters. So probably everyone who's listening remembers Cardinal George Pell getting arrested in August. Does that ring any bells? The Australian Cardinal George Pell?
Absolutely.
So, as you're probably aware, he was Pope Francis's Secretariat of the Economy. What you may not be aware of is that Francis invented that position and put him into it like in a 4-week period. There was no Secretariat of the Economy, and this is a person who reports directly and only to the Pope. This is your right-hand man, quite literally. This is somebody who controls the purse of the Vatican. This is what the wealthiest city-state on earth, perhaps? That's the money he controls. And Cardinal Pell came to prominence in the 90s because he actually was one of these vociferous upcomers who condemned the sexual abuse in the church. And if you've been through the 2 years I've been through, you add all that up and you say, this is a child rapist, this is a pimp, this is a procurer, this is somebody the Pope has to have at his right hand who runs the purse strings of the Vatican.
Yeah, I mean, that's harrowing stuff, dude. I mean, I think we all understand the Vatican's the biggest corporation in the world, and essentially the way they've made their vast fortunes has been through oil and war and land. And now, I mean, you can even look it up. They own Beretta, so they're into the military-industrial complex as well. And of course, all of that are offshoots to the true power, which is the blackmailocracy of the world, and that's naturally always shifted towards drug abuse, prostitution, and child abuse, because those are things you can film and you can use to hold over people's heads forever.
It's interesting to talk about how and why and when Cardinal Pell fell. Have either of you heard of the Royal Commission? The Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse that just signed off on its 4-year study, I think, this week?
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, neither had I, and I just stumbled across it. You know how Twitter is. And it's astonishing to me that a former prime minister, and I want to say Australia and or New Zealand, I'm not entirely certain. Okay, I just came across this myself. But she made it the goal of her administration. She was only briefly in office, and yet she's been pursuing this objective, this strangely named study for the past 4 years. Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse. It was actually in the course of this investigation that Cardinal Pell was first questioned about institutional responses to child sexual abuse. At the same time, in 2014, almost halfway through the study, some woman wrote a book about Cardinal Pell and some of the very serious career-length allegations against him. So all of these things were allowed to happen, right? We do acknowledge the Vatican as one of the controlling entities in our world, right?
Yeah, there's an article that just it's blocked on the Australian right now. I don't know why it's blocked, but they're bringing this up again right now, 35 minutes ago. So yeah, I mean, it's going to change things here soon.
Well, there's more to it than that. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I don't know how to tell these stories. These are fucked up stories. Pardon my profanity. But one of the recommendations of this council is to eliminate, first of all, the sanctity of confession. That would no longer be protected space to the extent that it is, consult your conscience. But also they're calling for an end to celibacy.
That would only make sense. It would possibly save some of these children from abuse, and it really is. It's an affront to any kind of a spiritual bent when they say that these priests and these nuns cannot have normal, carnal, and totally necessary relations with other human beings, so they feel connected to their bodies in this life. Because I tell you what, you ask any imam or any rabbi, or you ask a Buddhist monk even, and they'll tell you you're supposed to be fruitful and multiply, especially to continue the I guess you could say the ideological bent of your hoping to bring into the world with your children. So it creates this horribly toxic environment where you have extreme wealth in the Catholic Church, but you also have extreme sin, ironically enough.
What you have in the Catholic Church is the continuation of the Roman Empire, with all of its pageantry and all of its, faggotry and all of its pederasty. That is our elite. That is who runs us.
Yeah, it really is. Jake, are you still on? I guess Jake had to take a coffee break. But yeah, Al, I think we're at over, to my knowledge, at least in the United States, we're over 6, maybe even 7,000 people being busted in these rings. I think they've basically not been able to keep up with it, and I know that Trump's first year was closing in on Obama's entire 8-year span as far as how many of these pedo rings were busted and how many arrests were made. So something's changed in the power structure at the top. We can get into how Trump's probably represents a Freemason uprising.
We'll know if he closes Nick Mick for good. Anybody who's been on this ride knows Nick Mick is missing kids. Anybody who's been on this ride knows that they are incredibly powerful. They're FOIA proof. They're line item tax funded in my state, probably in yours. They're federally funded to the tune of $40 million a year. They run campaigns like #RockOneSock, #HopsForHope. And their results are hard to track. In fact, they themselves don't make numbers available. Highly suspect. Highly suspect.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't even type in the name of the guy who runs it, right?
Well, these waves come and go. You're talking, of course, about yet another Podesta. I guess it makes sense when you consider that, Nana Podesta adopted 25 kids. So, of course, you're going to get a Tony, a Brian.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a combo of those two things. You're going to probably see that a lot of people are collecting $200,000 a year and kind of showing up at an office job and not really doing a whole lot. Kind of putting up grainy old pictures of people that'll never be found, and they know exactly where these people are. I can kind of be sure of that. So it's another psyop aspect of this. These awful people that were running things until now. I can only hope that the people that take control soon are more or less evil, I guess. Right?
We'll know it's serious if they dissolve NCMEC. We'll know it's serious if they dissolve NCMEC. And I mean that 1,000%. There's no way that thing is clean. For one thing, it drains resources from, actual law enforcement. What is NCMEC anyway? Have you heard about this? It's a warehouse for child pornography that simply warehouses it until if a law enforcement officer asks for it. They're literally a library of the filthiest things on the internet.
Yeah, it's just every day I see these things going on with these busts, and it makes me extremely happy to see. And I hope the kingpins go down. I think they've kind of outed themselves with a lot of the emails. We'll see what happens, what they can do, what Sessions can do. We have to hope that he's capable of it.
Actually, I don't want to argue with you because I want the best outcome too. I want the Captain America outcome where literally they kill all of this with fire, because I believe it would take fire to cleanse this.
I think that's what we're going towards. I mean, you're starting to see these collapses of several systems. The main thing is that the banks are going absolutely insane with crypto, which is basically leading to people being able to gain a sense of financial freedom. And that they don't like that, because let's face it, they create money out of 10% of what they have. So when you're thinking of a bank, you're backed by almost nothing. And would you rather have a bank's word, or would you rather have the power of the market? Even with all its fertility, the power of the market would correct, and actually if you get in early enough, you're going to see a huge exponential increase.
I'm a simple farmer. I believe in what I can touch. I believe crypto is going to be a very profitable bubble that's going to explode in a lot of people's faces, and it is designed, in fact, to get us even further away from the paper that we can currently still touch. Let's get all the way away from anything that's tangible. I know it's working. I'm not saying don't get into it. I'm just saying it's a rich man's trick.
Currency isn't actually, most of it isn't paper. Most of it's just as virtual as
not in my world, Jake. I'm not trying to tell you I could make it rain right now, but I can make it rain right now. I believe in what I can touch.
Well, can you touch the credits going from your debit card?
What I'm telling you is that I operate primarily on a cash basis.
Right, but Bitcoin can be used to buy things, so it's just a currency, just the way fiat dollar is.
It's different if you're accustomed to cash passing through your hands, which I am. And we could talk about what a dollar really is. Certainly, there's not a lot there. There's a lot of blood there. It's not a good thing. Bitcoins aren't cleaner. I promise you that. But
wait, you use a debit card, right?
No, I go to my credit union and I get out cash.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, you're old school. All right, yeah, okay, well that's legitimate.
Right. Get off my lawn, Jake.
Yeah.
No, actually, get on my lawn. Get on my level.
They're serving serving brewed decaf in restaurants now too.
I don't get it. Is that a slam? Are you teasing me?
Isn't that like going to a bar and drinking like 12 O'Douls?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, we could get into a whole conversation on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, but that would certainly take us pretty far off topic at this point.
We got to get the prayerful who might be listening to not get stupid and give their money to the Vatican. Don't put anything in the plate this year, my friends. You go to the soup kitchen and cook instead, I beg you. Don't let a dollar, not a portion of one, whatever you think a dollar might be, go through your hands to this psychotic, satanic pope.
Yeah, what a troubling situation. So last time you were on the show, we spoke a little bit about kind of the little rings that are going on in the upper tiers of government. Has there been any progress in terms of kind of illuminating and revealing some of these cabals in just within the throes of our own government?
Well, Disobedient Media put out a blockbuster article probably within the last week and a half. I believe William Craddock has retired or something like it as a result. He announced a retirement before this thing came out. And Elizabeth Lee Voss. Anyway, the work they did was incredible. It's a blockbuster of an article. And I guess I can best introduce it briefly by saying the star witness, the fearless man testifying, is someone who was first coming to prominence as a peripheral character after the Sandusky Second Mile Penn State child rape scandal. And this man came forward at that time and said that he had been sort of in a ring in the very late 70s and very early 80s. And he has subsequently come forward at great personal risk and given names of people living and dead, people who are still in power. I would tell you to look up Disobedient Media and find this article, because what it lays out is a roadmap that connects the coasts, connects them through DC. It's like a lightning rod. You have to read it. Disobedient Media.
Okay. Yeah, I'll read it.
Please do. I feel reluctant to say this man's name, although I know it. We spent a few hours on the phone. We spent more than a few hours on the phone because I feel like he's actually in danger. And if he's willing to come forward, who am I to not say who he is? But at the same time, his testimony's on Disobedient Media.
Okay, well, people can go look that up and find information on that.
And if we aren't at least that curious at this point, just dig a hole and lie down in it. I mean, come on.
All right, well, so I was under the impression that there were going to be indictments and that shit was about to start going down. DB, you had predicted that numerous times.
First one just came yesterday. It was a junior state senator from Massachusetts. I have to look it up, but that was one. I don't know why Johnson in Kentucky killed himself over groping a 17-year-old. I think he might have been one of these indictments too. So I think they're going to come. I think Paul Ryan stepping down, he may be one of them. There's over 9,000 of them. You can look them up.
It is interesting that he's stepping down.
Well,
it's
yeah.
Interesting how many are hanging it up after this year.
Yeah, I wonder if that has to do with it.
Like cumulatively offered 50? Like it's like 40 odd 50 of them have already said they're not coming back.
And look at what it took to get a guy like Conyers out. How dug in he was, how much he had to lose. Look at Maxine Waters' net worth, like $70 million. Pelosi net worth.
Look at
like
Kareem Brown.
Yeah, how does Maxine Waters have $70 million when she represents one of the poorest districts in California? Is it because she keeps it so poor?
I think we know she's a pimp.
It's atrocious, dude. The corruption's beyond what people can imagine. I don't think people understand what an unbelievable figure $70 million is on a $200,000 a year salary. It's literally impossible.
But what about Menendez? That pervert Menendez, isn't he just still squatting in Congress, evading scrutiny?
They had a mistrial.
Of course they did.
So now he's going to be able to flounder around for years, and he'll probably die an old man under some horrible, allegations, and they'll never get him to trial. But, I don't know, man. I think at a certain point, these untouchables have to be touched by the victims themselves. I don't know what else is going to make them stop.
It's interesting you mention that, because the man I'm talking about who gave this incredible article to Disobedient Media talked about how he seriously contemplated killing his abuser.
And we need to create a thing where some kind of a thing where if you're in a position where I don't know how to go about doing it, dude. All I know is that in a trial, a jury might find you innocent if it came out you killed your abuser. I don't know.
But how do you prove that?
I have no idea. I think that there's sympathetic people that would say, you know what, they deserved it. But then I see that
Absolutely.
poor girl in jail now for 40 years whose whole life's over because she shot her pimp. She was underage, so she couldn't have been a prostitute.
Oh, God, the whole thing, just terrible miscarriage of justice. Justice system is not a justice system. But I wanted to offer that this gentleman is this victim of sex trafficking, this survivor of child prostitution, is willing to come on this show. He is. And I guess I just wanted to offer that, and perhaps we can get some feedback on it. I do not want to waste his time or jeopardize him unnecessarily. But if there's interest, and he's fascinating, he's willing to do it. And he deserves a little build-up, if I may say so.
That would be incredible. I mean, that would be intense. So yeah, I mean, let's email me about it, and let's talk more about it for sure. That would be, I mean, I love having guests on the show, and I particularly would love to have a guest. I mean, that would be, without doubt, the most profound guest we've had in terms of the nature of what he would be saying. I mean, that would be very powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I will pass that along, and hopefully it will come to fruition. I'm not going to lean real hard on this person, but I know it was said. At the same time, what better protection than to go as public as you possibly can? He needs to be on one of the... Well, didn't Disney buy Fox today? Is there an OAN? Is OAN real?
They bought 21st Century Fox, so they don't own Fox News they don't own Fox News or basically like Fox, as in The Simpsons Fox, but they own 21st Century Fox assets. But yeah, it was a $56 billion deal. So it was basically it was Murdoch selling off some of his assets at their absolute peak. And yeah.
Great.
But,
now we have 5 companies controlling 95%.
Yeah, no, it's the consolidation of companies. It's just getting unbelievable. I mean, at some point, it really is in the future. I mean, you really can see a day when there'll be 3 companies owning everything.
No, don't put energy into it. Turn away from it. I'm telling you.
Step into the light, Jake.
Well, I mean, it's already pretty bad. So it's just acknowledging.
This is the best time to be alive. It's just we can see it slipping away, and we've got to fight that.
All right. Thank you, DB. Thank you, LD. And,
thanks, Jake. Thanks, all.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Ditto.
Take care.
Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.